Want to get free tips in your inbox? I know what you're thinking. Sign up for your spam emails in my inbox every day. No thanks. Don't worry, I won't be emailing you more than once per week. And each email will contain insightful, valuable, actionable tips that you can apply to your podcast today to get closer to Podmastery. Sign up now at podmastery.co. That's podmastery.co. Threads, the new app from Meta/Facebook, is upon us. Now, how can you use this shiny new toy to grow your podcast? Well, wait a second. That's perhaps not the best question to be asking. It's like wanting to win a race without understanding the rules of the game. That's why for this episode, I'm changing gears and bringing you some podcast marketing wisdom from a true maestro of the medium. This one's not coming from me, but it's something I wish I'd said. Hey there, fellow podcaster. It's the Podmaster, Neil Velio, here with you to guide you towards achieving your own podmastery using my more than 2 decades of experience in the space. At the time I'm recording this, Meta's Twitter doppelganger, Threads, is still a noob, barely a week old. Yet, I've already seen a flurry of my podcasting comrades discussing how to exploit it for podcast promotion. Now, I'm going to be honest, that notion kinda ruffled my feathers a bit. Some of my friends have even said this, and I'm like, really? It even prompted a mini rant from me on LinkedIn about how we might be barking up the wrong tree here. Here's a clip. I think that's the wrong conversation to be having. Leveraging a social media platform for podcasters, as in leveraging the channel for audience to your podcast. This is where most podcasters have been getting it wrong for quite some time now. I don't know if you're aware of this, but social media usually accounts for less than 2%, and in a lot of cases, 0.2% of all of your podcast traffic. Why would you then be focusing all this new energy on this new social media platform? Where these social media platforms can come in handy when it comes to podcasting. Oh, I don't want to spoil the rest of this episode by giving away my point that early, because somebody's going to make the point for me. Look, here I was planning to expand on that video and turn it into a fully fledged podcast episode, but then my mate Mark Asquith stepped in. Now, Mark isn't just the big brain behind Captivate, the very platform this podcast calls its home. He's also one of those rare breeds in an industry swarming with instant success whisperers, a voice I consider genuine, trustworthy, and aligned with my own mantra of honesty and integrity in podcasting. There's a teeny tiny list of such folks in the industry, and Mark is near the top. That list has got, let's say, 5 names. That's all. And when I heard Mark's insights on using Threads for podcast growth, I was blown away. His episode was a perfect, well-cooked meal while I was still trying to gather the ingredients. And rather than trying to recreate that meal, I thought, you know what? Why not share the feast with you? So, with Mark's gracious permission, I'm going to share his episode right here on this feed. Something the kids call a feed drop. For me, it's simply sharing brilliant knowledge with you, the listener, giving you as few hurdles to jump as possible. His take on how to approach Threads for podcast growth is worth its weight in gold, and it's certainly worth you listening for the next 20 minutes or so. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy this enlightenment as we share the Podcast Accelerator episode 316, how to use Instagram Threads to grow your podcast audience, here on the Podmaster.
How do you use the brand new Instagram app Threads to grow your podcast audience? That's what I'm going to talk about here today on the Podcast Accelerator, and this comes with a content warning. There is more than likely going to be a lot of sarcasm and maybe a little bit of adult language included in this episode because we're only a week into Threads. How the hell can anyone know how to use it to grow their podcast? Well, maybe it's not quite as clear-cut as that, but I suppose we can dig into what you might be able to get started with. This is, of course, the Podcast Accelerator. I'm your host, the wildly cynical yet massively entertaining Northern English fellow, Mr. Mark Asquith, the co-founder of Captivate, the world's only growth-oriented podcast hosting platform. And we are going to talk about Threads. We are going to talk about Zuckerberg. We are going to talk about your podcast and probably some of the crappy tactics that you're going to start seeing thrown about on Threads. I'm going to say over the next few weeks, but probably already happening. Sound like my dad, getting grumpy, getting grumpy. One of those grumpy old men from podcasting. Oh, man. Oh, no, I've become that guy. Anyway, we are going to dig into that in just a second. I want to give a big shout out to one of my great friends, Mr. Drew Toynbee, I don't say the founder, the co-founder, along with his great friends over at the Sequel Pitch podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. But he actually sent me some money via my tipping tool, via my listener support tool. He sent me a $5 to buy a beer. So I have done. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. If you want to do the same, if you enjoy this content, I'll get a beer. I will gratefully accept a beer. You can do that at mark.live/support. Right. Podcasting. We all want to know how to grow our audience, don't we? But no one wants to learn marketing, right? If you want to grow anything, you have to learn marketing. Now, I know that's a bit flippant, and I keep going on about it, and I always say the same thing, right? But long term, if you want to grow anything, you have to learn elements of marketing. That is plain and simple, all right? But what a lot of people do in podcasting, they just want to, launch something and say, right, why can't I grow my audience? And then you say, well, what work are you putting in? How much time are you putting in? And, I get it. It's difficult to put time and effort into it. But you can't just promote. So what this means is, think back to, for example, let's think back to like the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi wars. All right, they were really going hard at brand marketing. We had right back in the day. You had the was it double for a nickel or something that Pepsi was doing, where you got double the amount of Pepsi that you got for cola for the same price. That was offer-based promotional marketing, right? And then they switched tack to brand marketing. You were either a Pepsi person or you were a Coke person, and that's gone on forever. You identified with the brand and you were one or the other. And people, we see that all the time with I'm an Apple person, or I'm a Windows person, I'm an iOS person, or an Android person, I'm a DC or a Marvel person. Guess what? You can be both. It's completely fine. Hot topic. But the point is that there are different aspects to marketing. There are different elements of marketing. Right? We just talked about it there. There was sales-based marketing, the promotional stuff, the more transactional stuff. Go and get double of our product for the same price as the single amount of the other competitor's product. And then there was like brand level marketing, where it was all about creating an affinity. It was all about creating relations and the feeling of being part of something, right? That's not the only type of marketing. There are so many other types of marketing. But one aspect of that people tend to get wrong within podcast circles is that promotion is not always good marketing. So bringing this back to podcasting, what this means is that just recording an episode and saying, I've got a new episode out, or here's a pull quote from my episode. Yeah, okay, that is marketing, but it's the promotional type of marketing. You're just promoting the thing that you've got. You're not creating affinity. You're not creating alignment. You don't have a strategy in place. And what people tend to do is that they think that new marketing channels can be used to just do more of the same thing. All right. So what I'm talking about here is that, say if I promote my episode on Twitter and then I do the same on Facebook, that feels like marketing because I do Facebook marketing, I do Twitter marketing. You don't. It's not. That's not the case. You are just doing promotion and you're just doing it across different channels. All right. Again, valid, but on its own, it doesn't get you very far. That's just a fact, all right? That's why billboards exist. It's why actual strategic marketing exists. It's why advertising exists. It's why content marketing exists. It's why brand positioning exists and messaging and everything that goes into a full marketing stack, why they all exist, okay? So that's a bit of background on sort of marketing and why a lot of podcast marketing really, really struggles, because it's not marketing, it's just promotion. So imagine if I've got a product. If I'm trying to sell you a car and I'm a car salesman, if all you saw from me was, I've got a car, come and buy it. I've got a car, come and buy it. Oh, look who I had looking at our car today. That's right. It was someone that you might vaguely know, a celebrity maybe, come and buy the car. It's not about that, all right? That wouldn't work, would it? It's all about delivering the lifestyle. You know, it's why you see the adverts, the commercials on TV. Here's me driving my car across a mountain. You too could be at that mountain. It's not really about the car, all right? So let's bring this to Threads. What the hell does that mean? Well, Threads is just another channel. Now, I actually like it, all right? So what is it? Let's think about what this is. Threads is a chat app, all right? Elon Musk took over Twitter. Like it or lump it. A lot of people don't like it. Some people do. I think it's gone downhill personally. I'm seeing much less engagement. I'm actually seeing much less that I want to engage with on Twitter because you've got the crappy new timeline that's not, it's everyone that may or may not be interesting to you that you see in your timeline. That's crap. I want to see people that I'm following. That's why I'm on Twitter. It's a chat app. So that's trending, arguably a little bit downward. So what's happened is Zuckerberg, he of Facebook and Meta fame, has taken the idea and he's basically said, I want to see a chat app that's got 1 billion users because then we could do some really cool stuff. So they launched Threads, which is basically, if you log into Threads, you've got an Instagram account, your username is secure, you can download it from Google Play or from the App Store, and you log in using Instagram, you get the same username, and you automatically follow, or you automatically get the opportunity of following people that you already follow on Instagram, and they get the opportunity of following you. So you've got this inbuilt stickiness, which is a really smart move, if not after a bit of use, if not great, because it's different type of content on Instagram. Like I don't want to follow certain brands on Instagram, on Threads that I want to follow on Instagram because I follow them for their visual content, whereas this is much more of a chat app. Now, when you open Threads, it just looks like bloody Twitter, all right? I get it. Cool. Whatever. That's what Instagram does. It copies things like the stories from Snapchat. It copies things like the disappearing images that Snapchat do as well. It copies a load of things, and that's fine. That's how development works. A lot of the time, ideas are shared. So we've got this new chat app called Threads. It's great. Go on, log in. It's actually quite fun. It feels like Twitter in the early days. It feels like Facebook in the early days. It feels innocent. It feels like feels like the knobheads aren't there yet, with one exception in a little bit that I'll tell you about. It feels like the influencers aren't trying to be influencers on there yet. They will be. And it feels like everyone's just there having a pretty chilled out time. There's some missing features like DMs, but who gives a crap? I don't really want more DMs to deal with. There's the following only feed, the one that I mentioned that I don't like on Twitter, where you see the default timeline on Twitter is to view people that you may or may not be interested in, and other people that you follow may have interacted with, and you see all that content. That's shit. Yeah, no one wants that. So that's sadly what Threads is at the minute. But apparently there is, according to my good friend Mr. Paul Ince at BizPaul on Threads. Apparently the following only tab is coming out soon. The following only feed is coming out soon, which that's the one I want, and I want that to be default. All right, tell you that straight. So it's like Twitter. All right, which means it's just another channel, a marketing channel. A marketing channel is just a place to put things that people will access, and how you use that marketing channel is really important. Okay, so SEO is a channel. Paid search is a channel. Social media marketing is arguably a channel, but actually it's more specific than that these days. Facebook ads, they're a channel. Facebook groups, channel. Facebook pages, channel. Instagram, channel. Reels on Instagram, channel. Stories, channel. And you can argue that it's just Instagram that's a channel, and it's how you use Instagram. Do I use Reels? Do I use Stories? Do I use normal images? They're the tactics within the channel. But podcasters, we don't think like that because we're not marketers. We just think Instagram, right? We just think Twitter. But actually, to me, I think for the ease of breaking it down, you should be thinking about each type of content you can put on each individual platform, each individual channel. You should be thinking about each type of content where there's a multi-content opportunity, such as Instagram, where you've got Reels and you've got Stories and you've got images. Each one of those, in my opinion, is now a channel because they're that prevalent. So I think that's just a bit of a side note. But Threads is just another channel, all right? It's got 100 million or so users in its first week. That's great. It's only come out a week ago. Brilliant. That's great because, of course, it's Instagram. There's no friction to getting involved. You can log in with Instagram. The onboarding process is really slick and simple, which I think it needed to be to get people using it. And it's cool, but it feels like a naive Twitter. And that's fine. I love that. It feels like the good old days. I really like that. Which leads me to the shithousery. I was on there the other day and I saw some podcast guru saying, here's how you use Instagram Threads to build your podcast audience. And it was shite. It was crap. It was like, how the hell can anyone know? You can't know because you can't have tried it. How much have you grown your podcast in a week, old son? You haven't, because there just aren't that many people, right? You've got 100 million people across the world interested in everything that the world is interested in. Out of that 100 million people, how many people are following you? Well, it turned out there were about 200, right? Hashtags aren't there yet. There are no hashtags on Threads. So, how have you grown your audience, mate? You haven't. You're a lying twat. And it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. The reason it pisses me off is because there are so many hardworking podcasters that really want to grow their audience, and they're looking at people like me and other people to tell them. But it's not easy. We know that. So this is why my shtick is always learn marketing. Here are some things that you can do now that will help you to learn marketing without you realizing you're learning marketing. All right. So that episode I did last week, which was very much about like lessons you can learn from big podcasts. Actually, you learned some marketing things there. You learned not to put dodgy promos in, put decent ones in. Yeah. So the point is that no one knows how to use Threads to grow your podcast audience. It's bullshit if you see anyone trying to sell that crap, because they will be. There'll be a course on it soon, or there'll be a webinar. The point is, it's just another channel. But it's like Twitter and Facebook were in the earliest days. And the only way to use those nascent tools at that stage to grow anything is just to be a human bloody being. Don't post your episode saying, you know, got this guest on, go and listen. Fuck off. Just be there and engage and use it to socially network. Socially bloody network. Yeah? And, don't get me wrong, I promote things on Twitter. I do. I've got a Zapier set up that auto-promotes this episode. It will come out in a few hours over on Twitter. It's like 2 tweets that it sends over the next couple of days. But most of my tweeting is conversational. That's how I get people to know me, and I get to know them. I like the relationships I've built just from Twitter are insane over the last 10 years, even more than that, 14 years. But the sad thing is that podcasters who are looking for a silver bullet, I don't blame people for looking for silver bullets, because we all want a silver bloody bullet. We do. It would be lovely if I could clip my fingers and be ripped, but I can't. I'm a middle-aged guy. It's really bloody hard. So I've got to do the work. So as a podcaster, if you want the silver bullet, I understand why you want it, and I get it. I truly get it. What I don't like is dickheads pretending that they've got one, because they haven't. There are no hacks. There are no shortcuts. A hack is just a tactic that you've not thought about yet. Yeah, that's it. And people call it hack because it implies that it's quick and easy and that anyone can do it and it will happen quickly. And it's rubbish. All right. So how do you use Threads to grow your podcast? No one fucking knows. No one knows. But if you turn up and you treat this thing like a social network, and you treat this thing like a platform to make friends and to provide interesting insights and things that you enjoy, then people will think of you as the person that enjoys the thing that you talk about on your podcast. That is just common sense. So just turn up and be decent and just enjoy talking to people about the thing that you enjoy talking about. Don't worry about your strategy. Don't worry about your tactics or any of that other stuff that you would naturally start to think about on webinars run by entrepreneurs trying to sell you a $97 course and get you onto an email list. Fuck them. They don't know any more than we do. Be a human being, and Threads and any other social network will work in your favor, all right? Remember, the Threads algorithm is 1 week old. How can anyone teach you how to game it? How can anyone teach you how to benefit from it? It's a week old. Just think about it, all right? I'm just sick. I'm sick of gurus diving in, trying to sell everyone everything and teach them and, pretend that they know things that they don't and just back down when they're challenged because they run off back into their little bush or under their little rock. Just go and be a human being and you'll get ahead of those gurus because they're always trying to flip some shit. Whereas you're actually doing a good job and you love what you do. All right? Think about it. That's a rant done and dusted. Much love. Thank you so much for letting me rant about that. I'm sorry for the bad language, but also at the same time, absolutely not sorry at all because they deserve it. All right. So, like I said, thank you. Stay cool. Look after yourself. Keep doing what you do. Keep sharing your voice. It's important. All right. Keep doing what you do. Someone out there is listening and it matters to them. I know it can be hard sometimes because you're there, you're recording like I am right now in my bedroom and you think that no one's there. I believe that there are people there for you and that they're listening and that you are affecting your audience in a positive way. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep sharing what you do. Much love. Stay cool. Until the next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Podmaster Podcast. The fact that you've listened this far tells me you got something out of the episode. Want to get more free tips and insight on how to improve your podcast? Each email will contain insightful, valuable, actionable tips that you can apply to your podcast today to get closer to Podmastery. Sign up now at podmastery.co. That's podmastery.co.